Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, dear leaders, experts, my colleagues from Iesesco, dear guests, Assalamu alaikum, a very good afternoon, and very warm welcome to Iesesco headquarters, Rabat. Indeed, a very important topic of accelerating the girls' education in Arab world and the Islamic world, of course. The comparative reports presented here are derived from the country-specific analysis conducted in 15 Arab and Islamic nations, and the distinguished experts who were here before us, the two distinguished experts presented to us the status of the girls' education specifically in the Arab region. And of course, the content which has emerged out of the two very important reports presented by our distinguished speakers, together with the statistics and also the policy recommendations, and then followed by a very nice session of question and answers, is thought-provoking for all of us. While we continue to the second part of the session, Dr. Didam, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you can hear me as well?
Yes, so I have already introduced you to the audience and experts and excellencies sitting here with us at Iesesco headquarters, Rabat, when you were offline. And I will in fact mention to you that you have 30 minutes for your presentation, and that will follow by a question and answer session. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I am a bit, well, anyways, I cannot open my video. I don't know what is the main problem, but however, anyways, you can see the presentation, which is the most important one. So let's see greetings from Turkey, İzmir, by the way. I'm Associate Professor Didem Doymaz Duman, and I would like to start with my sincere gratitude to the organizer of the seminar, Iesesco and Arab Women Organization. I'm very pleased to be a part of this organization, even though I couldn't make it to be there in person, meet you in person as mentioned. I have a little baby daughter and I couldn't just leave her here and I couldn't bring her with me there. So it was quite complicated, but thank you for hosting me online. Well, the topic focuses on a significantly important issue since the developmental process of a country is influenced by a multitude of elements and factors which encompasses a wide range of dynamics and complexities that shape the trajectory of progress and growth. And among this intricate web of influential forces, education emerges as a formidable pioneer, and it's imperative to acknowledge this pivotal role that education plays in the developmental process. Well, in order to fully realize the utmost potential of development within a particular society, it becomes absolutely imperative to take the necessary steps towards a comprehensive and all-encompassing mobilization of educational efforts, ensuring equal access and opportunities for both males and females alike, as the principle of gender equality stands as one of the most prominent and noteworthy constituents of the construct of human development. However, certain cultural norms, such as those pertaining to religion, have the potential to present a significant impediment in pursuit of education. Within this context of these cultural norms, it's particularly girls who are negatively impacted, as their educational journey is often abruptly halted due to prevailing negative perception surrounding the notion of educated women within their respective societies. Well, this report has the objective of conducting a comprehensive comparison of the educational processes for girls in an established sample consisting of Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Turkey. Now, when the sample created within the scope of preparation of this report is examined, it's observed that a comparative of small-end research design has been established, and within this design, we see that most different system design was adopted. Differences are observed in all other variables within the scope of MBSD, despite similarity in terms of primary independent variable. And the cases in the sample, as I listed, differ in every aspect except for their predominantly non-Arab Muslim population, which can be regarded as the primary independent variable. By the way, it's important to highlight that there are two different sources of the info that I used in this report. First of all, I used statistical data in order to make a quantitative comparison at a glance over the sampled countries. And then I gathered the info that was provided from the national reports to make a qualitative analysis. And let's start with statistics. Yes. Well, the Human Development Index serves as a summary measure of the average level of accomplishment across various aspects of human development, including long and healthy life, being knowledgeable, and material well-being. Well, amongst all these three dimensions, being knowledgeable is the most relevant to this report, since it is determined by the average number of years of schooling completed by adults aged 25 years and above, as well as the anticipated years of education for children entering the school system. And only the two very high classified countries rank above the world average value, which was computed 0.732. This is quite alarming. Well, and another sub-index, another important issue are the sub-indexes that are elaborated, and the gender inequality index as a part of being knowledgeable is one of them. And amongst various domains, percentage of the population ages 25 and older with at least some secondary education attracts significant attention. Malaysia ranks the best amongst the other countries of the sample, while Nigeria is listed last as seen. And when secondary education is focused, it would not be wrong to claim that only the result of Malaysia seems promising, as the rest of the countries possess a more significant discrepancy between male and female students. In accordance with all overall percentages of the secondary educated population, the results are alarming, unfortunately. The Global Gender Gap Index is another important one, since we focus on the differences and the discrepancies. And this is computed by the World Economic Forum, and it aims to assess the advancement made towards achieving gender equality and to juxtapose the gender disparities among nations across four different domains, which are economic opportunities, education, health, and political leadership. But the degree of advancement made towards gender equality, also known as the parity score, is computed by comparing the values of each indicator for women to those of men. Hence, a parity score of 1 signifies complete parity, whereas the gender gap represents the extent of the disparity from achieving full equality. Now, here in the table, it demonstrates the range overall scores alongside change from 2022 regarding the sample. And as seen, the sampled countries cannot offer a promising framework in terms of gender parity index, whereas a minor positive point attracts the attention as for over 7 countries, ranked better than last year. The overall framework is similarly far from presenting a positive picture, as the population-weighted global average of the entire countries is 68.4%, and only 2 out of 7 countries are above it, which are Malaysia and Turkey. Well, the sub-indexes of educational attainment, economic participation and opportunity, health and survivor, and political empowerment, and they do not demonstrate significant resemblance with the overall index rankings for each country. For instance, Malaysia possesses complete parity in terms of educational attainment with the top ranking. However, it does not show a similar success in terms of economic participation and opportunity. While it ranks 89th with a score of 0.664, it also ranks third in the sample consisting of 7 countries. A similar contrast is visible for Bangladesh, since it ranks 122nd in terms of educational attainment, despite its significantly higher ranking regarding political empowerment. Well, a constant consistency is only significant for Afghanistan, but in an unfortunate negative way, since it ranks the last both in 3 of 4 sub-indexes and in overall index. Well, evaluated in accordance with the population weight averages, which are written in the score cells, the general picture does not differ greatly from the overall evaluation. In terms of educational attainment, the one that has the highest average, only 3 of the 7 countries rank above. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Turkey, whilst there is only one country, Bangladesh, that ranks above the average regarding political empowerment and the one with the lowest. Well, within the framework of economic participation and opportunity, there are 3 countries ranked above the average: Indonesia, Malaysia, and Nigeria. And the most successful image of the sample belongs to the health and survival subindex, which has 96 average, and 6 of the 7 countries rank above, well, thankfully. There's an interesting point in that the World Economic Forum has established a pattern of values since 2006, and when the pertinent data began to be computed up to the present time. And in conjunction with this pattern, the anticipated duration necessary to achieve full parity is incorporated within its computations. And in accordance with this calculation, if the trend proceeds similarly, overall index requires 131 years to achieve full parity. However, education attainment subindex seems much more promising since it requires only 16 years to achieve full parity. With correct and tailored measures to be applied, it's conveniently realistic to narrow the gap between genders. The narrowing of the gender gap in education will be accompanied by indirect positive consequences that would enhance social consciousness and overall progress as well. Well, as stated before, there are certain focus points, and from this point further, I will present some qualitative data obtained from the national reports. Those were conducted by national experts and provided to me. And to complete the research, 4 focus points were elaborately taken into account for comparison analysis. And among these 4, 3 of them, that were aforementioned 3 of them actually, were used as determinant points, and the remaining focus point was included in the study within the scope of formulating the policy recommendations. If I have time, I would like to just mention some of them. And, well, yes, let's start with literacy rates. Gender differences in school education system, in order to understand, it's quite important to see the overall literacy rates. And I just would like to make it clear that I obtained data from World Bank statistics, and I used the most recent one in order to show the exact gap, since it's an accumulated value. So there will be no problem to use different years of data. And there's one other thing that I would like to mention, that I used the most recent data, and this one pertaining to Malaysia was dated back 1991. Hence, I checked a much more recent one, and I found it in World Population Review 2023 report. And I took the data pertaining to Malaysia and extracted it from this source. So this is the general literacy rate table, and it seems a bit, well, alarming for the entire country. As seen, we can only say that just 3 of the 7 countries are promising, which already possess relatively salient results in the indices that I mentioned before. However, even among these top 3 countries, there's a statistically significant difference in literacy rates between males and females. And the situation in Pakistan and Afghanistan is particularly alarming, as gender disparities in education are prevalent, along with overall concerning statistics. And it's important to highlight the impact of Taliban in Afghanistan, as their radical decisions further exacerbate the gender inequality in education. Well, it seems that I use much more qualitative data that came from the reports in comparison with the first 2 experts' presentations. So I just would like to focus on issues that just obstruct the girls from taking education in accordance with the national reports that I had in hand. Well, the report of Afghanistan states that the challenge in education is diverse and comprehensive, and they mostly refer in the report as children's education problems, but not with gender differences. So it is emphasized that the relevant problems are economic, social, cultural, and legal. As different in Afghanistan, the national report of Bangladesh focuses on the numerical differences between male and female teachers in schools, Well, this is an interesting point. Why? Because the issue has been taken into account within a wider perspective, not just the students, but also with the teachers, with the service givers as well. As another distinct point in this report that it stated girls predominantly acquire the madrasa education in comparison to other educational paths. And regarding gender stereotypes in the textbooks, I would like to quote a short passage from the report directly. It says that female characters are often shown in traditional and less prestigious occupations, and they are more likely to be introverted and passive. Male characters, on the other hand, are more likely to be shown in professional roles and to have extroverted and assertive personalities. And alongside this, images in textbooks serve to reinforce gender stereotypes as well. Whilst men are pictured in professional jobs in the public sphere, women are depicted in images as house chores, in cooking, cleaning, in private areas. It's noteworthy that there has been a serious education campaign in the country in the last decade, and that this situation is successfully reflected in the statistics. Well, in Indonesia, the report states that under the 1945 Indonesian constitution and indeed all regulations under the constitution, it's guaranteed that there will be no discrimination of any kind in education. However, gender stereotypes alongside consequent social norms demonstrate a different practice than the constituted version. Regarding Malaysia, the report emphasizes that the government allocates 20% budget, 20% of the state budget to the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, making girls almost equal to boys in terms of access to education up until secondary level. Well, it says almost, however, it's a state-run endeavor to address the issue, which first of all indicates that the government has already acknowledged the issue, which is a perfect point of focus. In the national report of Nigeria, cultural differences were highlighted and consequent variety of law enforcement were pointed out as an obstacle for achievement of a nationwide progress. In Pakistan, the constitutional amendment in 2010 resulted in the transfer of various domains of power from the federal government to the provincial governments. Although this change aims to ensure that all citizens have access to education, differences and coordination problems between state governments, such as curriculum, standards, evaluation, and teacher training, have brought about consolidated inequality in education. And on the other hand, it can be emphasized that a definitive mechanism is needed to ensure interstate cooperation. It's possible to see injustice and inequality in interregional education programs, as well as differences. And in the national report of Turkey, it's emphasized that although basic education is designed to be open to everyone, meritocracy factor is important in determining the advantage after basic education. As a result, there are widespread gender differences in access to and attainment of post-basic education. And also, the attention was drawn to the change in legislation known as 4+4+4 law, and it was criticized a lot. Well, in conclusion, it would not be wrong to claim that in every single country of the sample, legal framework promises more than the practices, since regulations highlight regulations highlight equality in theory, and yet gender inequality in education exists in every single report and in every aspect, as I have mentioned so far. Well, I'm going to be much more quicker in these two ones. Regarding protecting the educational rights of girls and women within the national legal frameworks, the reports mostly focused on two points: that the educational rights, legal regulations pertaining to marital status, limitations regarding age and some certain expectations, and also the child labor. So the table has been conducted in this manner, and it's important to see that almost in every single country that there are various provisions and sanctions against child marriage and child labor. There are two types of light work that children can do and dangerous jobs that they cannot do. However, there are significant deficiencies in listing what these jobs are. Well, I have separated countries into two tables So we have these 2 pages. I hope I'm not going too fast so that you can follow. And for instance, even if legal age for marriage is set at a certain age, allowing marrying of an underage girl with permission of her father or representative or some religious leaders brings about a legitimate violation of the related law. Hence, this practice, which is pretty common in every single country, it calls into question the importance of the law, whilst it hinders educational opportunities for girls. Another difference is mentioned in Bangladesh report that the emphasis on the need to work with religious leaders to raise awareness about child marriage reveals the cultural norms of the country, because Bangladesh has some sort of state-run endeavors, as I mentioned before, and the government worked with religious leaders in order to impress the public opinion with opinion leaders. The last one, regarding social norms and barriers that prevent girls from obtaining education in Arab and Islamic countries. Well, it seems that like an interesting topic, that there's a direct relationship between the schooling rate of girls and the education level of their families. Then it is the mentality that needs to be changed, actually. Therefore, the thought patterns and discourses conveyed to society are extremely important. And it's possible to say that changing the mentality here will actually initiate a process that can yield results in a very short time. And as I mentioned before, in accordance with the computation of the World Economic Forum, gender parity achievement in education requires only 16 years, even if the trend remains stable. So with correct measures to be applied, this provisional process even might be shortened. Well, last of all, in order to map social protection interventions as paths to address obstacles to girls' education in Arab and Islamic countries, I would like to present various policy suggestions that can aid in overcoming the aforementioned obstacles. And it's important to note that the recommendations put forth were formulated by 2 distinct groups, the primary implementers and the target audience. While society consistently occupies the role of the target audience within this classification, it should be acknowledged that the authorities can alternate between being the primary implementer and the target audience. And in order for authorities to effectively fulfill their role, they must first recognize the significance of gender equality within the social structure, particularly in the realm of education, and acknowledge that any deviation from this ideal constitutes a problem. So the acknowledgement really has the key role in this. And in instances where authorities themselves are the target audience, the responsibility is shared among international organizations and national, international NGOs that focus on pertinent issues. And once awareness is cultivated and the matter is recognized as an issue, authorities assume the role of primary implementer and undertake endeavors for betterment of society, which represents the core target audience. Well, in here, I have 5 ballots that has this policy recommendation: partnership with NGOs and private sector, state-run initiatives, role of media, individual endeavors of opinion leaders, and advancing infrastructure pertaining to education. Since the time limitation, we can focus on them with questions or comments, but I just would like to give some very, successful examples. For example, in terms of partnership with NGOs and private sector, I have 2 important campaigns that were applied in Turkey. One of them was a co-work between UNICEF and Ministry of National Education of the Republic of Turkey of the school girls. The literate translation, Haydi Kızlar Okula in Turkish. And in order to close the gender gap in primary school enrollment, the campaign worked in 53 provinces with the lowest schooling levels. And the success of the process can be demonstrated by the fact that an additional 40,000 girls, this is really important, with just one campaign. Well, it was quite elaborative campaign, but still just one initiative, 40,000 girls were enrolled in school during the first months of the campaign. It's a great success that we have to acknowledge. And with another one, we have this private company cooperation. Turkcell, it's one of the largest GSM operators of the country. The project Kardelen, Snowdrop, the flower, was applied in 2000, and the project was named with reference to snowdrop flowers that bloom despite the snowy weather and aims to make girls become individuals by continuing their education life despite various difficulties. And every single year, Turkcell still publishes reports regarding the very first cases to up until present, where these cardelans, these snowdrops are, what they are doing, what are their achievements, etc., etc. In terms of state-run initiatives, alongside individual endeavors of opinion leaders, the case of Bangladesh constitutes a significant example, since the government worked with the religious leaders in order to perform a betterment of educational understanding, this behavioral pattern. It is quite important. In terms of role of media, the example still belongs to Bangladesh, because there's a notable case that was conducted in the report that a television series was jointly prepared by the UNICEF and the Ministry of Women and Children's Affairs. It was titled Ichadenia, if I'm not mistaken for the pronunciation. And the series revolves around the empowerment of adolescent girls, enabling them to transcend gender roles and societal limitations, and thus endeavors to foster egalitarian norms among a diverse audience. Now, this is quite important because the role model issue is one of the things that might be cultivated into little girls' minds to just break the cultural norms once they have the power, once they have the imagination of a powerful woman image in their own minds. And last but not least, to conclude, I would like to say that I believe the consolidation theory will explain a lot in this very point, because in order to perform a concert and holistic development regarding such an important case, attitudinal and behavioral consolidation should go side by side with legal reinforcement. Introducing an hassle-free implementation of laws would certainly bring about positive outcome. However, it should be accompanied by acknowledgement and normalization of these actions by society. Hence, in order to achieve and consolidate a sustainable solution regarding social matters, attitudinal barriers should be eliminated so that behavioral compatibility will occur. And it will take a process to accomplish such aims like encouraging girls' education, preventing child labor and early and/or forced marriages. However, with correct steps carried out by the entire authorities alongside society, the results will bring about long-lasting social development, not only in terms of gender equality, but also in holistic welfare. It's important to highlight that any social structure is an organic unity that should be entirely targeted to take progressivist actions supported by legal norms. In other words, even though the main target group is the girls to be educated, the entire society, including elderly generations, parents, including both mothers and fathers, and the children should be mobilized all together to raise consciousness, not just to educate their daughters, but to believe in the necessity of education. At the opening ceremony, there was this reference that attracted my attention. Educating a boy is educating a boy, but educating a girl is educating a family. In my language, in Turkish, it goes even beyond, because we do say educating a girl is educating a nation itself. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nedum, for your valuable insight through this important presentation. And if I try to quickly sum it up, it mainly explained the social norms and practices that prevent girls from going to school along with the statistical differences that you have mentioned in your presentation for these countries in the Islamic world, non-Arabic region. The major challenges that you have emphasized on mainly revolves around the child marriage and child labor that dominates all other challenges. And also, another biggest challenge that has come out and emerged out of your study is actually the weak implementation of the rules and regulations that are actually enacted through various legislations. And that is a very, very important challenge that, of course, is one of the takeaway from this particular and very important conference and the symposium, because it is going to go to the policy makers, the decision makers, the political notables who are actually the drivers of all these important intervention that is going to affect the status of the girls' education. Also, you know, your recommendations, I would like to further summarize them, has also depicted the fact that the reorganization of the governmental business in all these governments is to be of the manner that it needs to include all stakeholders. And when we say all stakeholders, it starts from your house, from the children's house. It includes the parents. It then goes to school, it then goes to community, and it includes the religious scholars, leaders as well, who plays very important role in the Islamic world. And that is what exactly you have indicated, and that has happened in the context of Bangladesh. Well, thank you very much again, and I will now give floor to our esteemed audience if they have any questions. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you so much. It's me, Zubaida Manan. I'm from Bangladesh. Actually, I have 3 questions to our honorable speaker, Ms. Didem. Thank you so much, Didem, for your nice presentation, and I am really feel proud that when you utter our name, Bangladesh, in this August audience. Thank you so much. Didem, I have 2 questions, actually, and then I have some observation, if you don't mind. First thing that what actually you mean about the gender stereotypes and images in textbooks and education campaign in the last decades, actually. Would you mind to clarify? Didem.
Sure, yes. Well, the gender stereotype thing is quite related with how it is cultivated into our minds. While males are assigned to do some sort of extrovert professions with some outdoor issues, professions, and how to say, and female figure was mostly in house. They are much more in less prestigious jobs. They are occupied with household chores. So these are the gender stereotypes. For example, a woman cannot be out for a meeting, for a professional meeting, cannot be out of the country by herself, because it is how a gender role, gender stereotype is assigned for this particular gender. Or a male cannot take care of house chores because it is exactly the woman's job, woman's responsibility to do that. This is the gender stereotypes, and images in textbooks are mostly related with the school textbooks in the educational system, and this is one of the things that much more education budget allocations should be assigned in order to renew the curricula alongside the textbooks. Why? Because it is mostly related with images of women at home while the male figures are out doing their profession, performing their jobs, etc., etc. And this is the images in textbooks. Yeah. And there was one more question that you had. Let me check. State-run initiatives you asked for?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Campaign in the last decades.
Yeah, the campaign in the last decades. There's this strong reference in Bangladesh that they were budget allocations. They were trying to, the government was trying to cooperate with religious leaders in order to attract the attention of the society to just convey the little girls to education, because it is really important in order to demonstrate the importance, in order to explain, mention, consolidate the importance of education for little girls. And they instrumentalized the opinion leadership in this manner, and state-run initiatives worked alongside with opinion leaders.
Thank you.
I hope I could clarify. Yeah,
thank you so much. You rightly clarified all the things. In this regard, may I just point out a few things just for your information, please? Sure. Nowadays, the government of Bangladesh, actually, you know that our Prime Minister, Honorable Sheikh Hasina, she is very much keen that about women empowerment through education. And because of her, that government has introduced lots of scholarship, not only the scholarship, that it also, they introduced the midday meal, and we actually, the education system from primary to higher education, it spread all over the country. And the thing is that we already shifted the learning from, you know, now from textbook, it's not only the based on the textbook, we shifted to learning through working, learning through playing, and learning through doing. So it's not that we only based on the textbook and the images itself. We are learning in the school, we are learning inside the classes through working, doing, and playing. And we also introduced technical and vocational education inside our schools, college, and universities. And we should feel happy to know that our medicine school, our engineering school, our private and public universities, they are now, the women participation, girls participation increasing. So it's, we are actually doing a lot of things to empower our women, or not women, our girls, through education. But the thing is that you rightly pointed out, we have child marriage. Yeah, we have child, especially after COVID. After COVID, we just turn around. Our girls got married, and the way we actually trying to address all these issues, that child marriage, and of course the poverty. And you know about the poverty, the problems in your country, the education sector, the education ministry, the government itself were just dealing with the private institutes, the non-governmental organizations, NGOs are working very hard. They're doing well to address the slum areas, the poverty-prone areas, you know, that there are the outskirt areas, in the riverine areas, they are working to educate our girls. So you can also just take all these things to your you know, survey, so that
thank you very much for your kind comments. We'll go to the second question. Dr. Fadil, Her Excellency, the Director General of Arab Women's Organization would like to ask a question.
Thank you. No, I want to congratulate Didem for the new child.
Thank you.
Her absence is due to the new kid. So congratulations. Congratulations as well, Didem, for this substantive report. But I may put briefly a screen for Islamic non-Arab countries in 4 categories instead of 2, as you did in your recommendations in the last statement you have made. And please correct me. we may have four situations, four scenarios. We have governments which forbid to girls to go to school. We have governments who are neutral. They do nothing for, to encourage girls to go to school. We have those who have legislations, legal frameworks, but do have problems in the implementation, either voluntarily or by indifference or by lack of resources. And then we have those who have cultural resistance in the local environment. These are four situations, and we do meet these situations in the countries you have covered in your report. I know that your report couldn't go to details, and I would not like to go to details neither, but we still have situations to address in our resolutions and in our next policy or suggestions for policy makers. Those who are forbidding girls to go to school, they have to change their mind and their attitude. Excluding girls from going to school is a very dangerous attitude that we have to combat altogether. The second situation is those who are indifferent. We cannot be indifferent. We have commitments towards our citizens, towards our international commitments towards the world, and we have to take measures, not only take it, leave it, and laissez-faire and laissez-passer. The third situation is those who have difficulties in the implementation. So these countries have to be supported by international organizations, by donors, by fundraising agencies, by the World Bank, by all of us, because they have problems in the implementation. In the process of implementation, weakness should be addressed. And the fourth category is the situation of countries where we have maybe a very good a legal framework, but at the same time we have resistance, and we have to address immediately and frontally these resistances. Am I right or wrong, Didem?
Well, Professor, you are exactly right, because the first three, actually, not just the second one or the third one, but the first three, in first three cases that you mentioned, are the ones that the state is much more like an audience, is a target audience, not the interpreter itself, because it should be encouraged, the state, because in order to make a policy, the first thing is to acknowledge the issue. Well, if you forbid, you have already aware of some sort of issues. If you are neutral, then you just do not care, or you're not just aware of what's going on in the country. In the third case, yes, there are some sort of legal enforcements, legal structure. However, there are some sort of lack of implementations. Well, in this case, the state has to recognize the issue and to implement the legal framework, because it is already there. But in order to do these three, the state is the passive one. It should be, the government should be triggered by some outer sources or inner sources. Sometimes it is the international NGOs, for example, like in the case of Turkey and Bangladesh, in this TV series or in the education campaign, international NGOs might just enforce the government to take some sort of a certain step further, or it should be some, how to say, inner press coming from the society that's just asking for some changes. And this might, of course, be triggered by the role of media, by some sort of international empowerment of the images, by cultivated understanding of powerful woman images, I guess. And the fourth one is the implementer role that the government possesses. And this is the one that is the ideal one, that it should work against the social resistance, even if there is. But yes, the four classification is perfectly switched with the problem, as in the sample of these 7 countries that I worked with. So yes, thank you very much, Professor. I will edit as a report alongside the comments regarding Bangladesh. Thank you very much. And also as a former student of you, Professor Kivan, I'm so glad to hear that the congratulations for my baby and the work, etc., etc. It's really glad to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dida.
Thank you. So we'll have just 2 more questions. Lead in the center.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. Sonia Khouri, Ministry of Education in Lebanon. First of all, thank you, Dr. Didem. I just want to go to the recommendation that you have stated, legal reinforcement combined with consolidated attitude and behavior. I want to say that in Lebanon, we have the law that states the compulsory and free in basic education. And since 2011, only 2023, I suppose, there was this implementation of this law by issuing a new decree to how to implement the compulsory education. So the issue is not only a legal framework. So here I go back to what Dr. Fadia was saying, that there are so many lacking of resources that sometimes, even if the legal framework is there, we need to interfere and we need to do something. Maybe the government wants to do something and is unable due to many other problems that are, let's say, taking the priority. However, as international community, it is the responsibility to follow on the implementation by getting some donations, by getting the interference or interventions of international NGOs, World Bank, maybe other international organizations, to really make sure that if the country or the government is willing to implement compulsory education, to basic education, to secondary education, what is it that is not enabling her to complete this mission? So here comes the international community's intervention in order to help those countries to do so. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for the question. And this is the main problem, actually, because as we have seen, I have mentioned that in almost every single country, the constitution just provides the equal rights for both males and females for education, which is free up until secondary or university degrees, etc., etc. However, there is the problem in implementing it. And this is the main issue, because it's not just the legal framework, as you mentioned. And in this one, it is the third one, as Professor Kivan's classification. It is the third one, and it is quite alarming. And in this case, some sort of international initiatives, endeavors, or triggerments, empowerments would work, like the one that we are doing right now, thanks to Eisisco and Arab Women Organization. We are just discussing and we will publish the reports, we will present, we are presenting the situation, the results with you. So it is quite an initiative, and these should be consolidated in order to attract the attention of the government, because it's not just legal reinforcement, it is the belief in the importance of education itself. It's not just like, okay, we have this rule, we have this law, so it is right there. No one will implement it if they do not believe the importance of it, So the main thing is the reason why I believe the consolidation theory will work in this one. The attitudinal pattern should be bettered, should be even much more focused on the issue. Because if we do not focus on the issue, if we do not focus on the problem, as you mentioned, is the percentage and the dispute between the theory and the practice, the difference between these two should be acknowledged by the authorities in order to make some changes. And if the authority does not take this step further, there should be some other parties that should raise the consciousness, because it's not something that we can achieve with just legal reinforcement. It's not possible, because we have it. We do have penalties. We do have consequences. For example, in Pakistan, there are these rupees that they are all related. And for marrying off a little girl, they do pay the penalty and making the wedding. It was reported it was just mentioned in the report. So it's not just the legal reinforcement, it's not just the penalty, but it is the belief in the necessity of doing it. So this is the thing that we have to trigger by making these projects, conferences, initiatives, endeavors, etc., etc. This is what we are doing, and I really hope, because 16 years is nothing to achieve to parity of gender parity in education as computed by the World Economic Forum. And in 16 years, if we can do it better, then even we can make it further faster. This is what I believe, and this is what this would serve for.
Dr. Didam, we have last 3 minutes, and we will take 3 questions all together for you to answer them at once. So I'll start with my colleague here.
Thank you so much. My name is Amina Buba Haruna. I'm a director and the national project coordinator of Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment. Agile is a World Bank assisted project. At the Federal Ministry of Education, thank you, Doctor, for all your reports, but I think I've been working with the World Bank since 2018 from the reports, some of the reports that I've seen. We have worked so hard under this project. We have BESDA, what it talks about, out-of-school children. Please let us be mindful of that. If we are talking about the girls' education, we should also be mindful of that, taking along the boys. Because I'm a typical example of that. I got married when I was 15. And if it is my husband was not educated, I wouldn't have been here. So don't let us forget that, taking the boys along. Because in Africa or in Nigeria, we always think that the man has the final say. So if the boys are taken along, that would be better. Then we have allocation of increase of budget increase. Then that made the enrollment in retention and completion of secondary school, because it is when we reach the secondary school education that you see the total dropout of the girls getting married and this. And that's why the federal government went out to borrow or credit from the World Bank. We started with 7 states. We have 37 states in the federation. We started with 7 states. That 7 states is $500,000 that we're working with it million. Then we have now increase of $700 million to make it 1.2, the largest credit in West Africa, to ensure that we enroll more girls. And more special interests of other states are trying to come in. Now we have to make the provisions conducive, not talking about enrollment. What provision have you made? We have to make the school environment more comfortable, more conducive, to ensure that when the child is there, she's safety, and that's why we look at wash facilities. When the water, sanitation, and hygiene is not available at the adolescent girl, she has reached the age of menstruation. So she needs all these provisions to make her to return to the school. And we are working with the partners because we have the kickback from the legal or from the religious side of the Islamic side from the northern part. Because most of the out-of-school girls in Nigeria are coming from the northern part, and the northern part carry the 19th part of the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you allow me, I will continue to go on and on.
Dr. Ridham, your response, please. Sorry, we have to take a second question, yes.
Yes.
After this.
Thank you very much, Abdelhadi Al-Halhouli from Morocco. I have 2 questions. The first one, you said, Prof. Adina, in the slide, I think 5, that Malaysia has the high score, this is the one, but in the rank has the less one. Could you explain more, Dr. Adina? My second question, you said I think in the 10 slide, that Turkish system is an open one. It means that in Turkish system there is now discrimination about the social norms to access to the girls in education. And thank you.
Lady from the center, please. Thank you.
شكرا. يعني بالنسبة للقضايا اللي طرحتها دكتورة ديدم هي كتير مهمة، لكن أنا عندي سؤال. نحن عادة عندما ندعو إلى تعليم الفتيات، جيلنا على سبيل المثال تعلم بسببين: كان في هدف ترقي اجتماعي وكان في ترقي اقتصادي. يعني كنا نحن حاطين أهداف الحصول على وضع اقتصادي أفضل وعلى واقع اجتماعي أفضل. طبعا نحن جيل كان كتير صبور، كانوا يعلمونا كتير من المواد ويحطونا على طريقة الفرنسيين الراس المليان، يعني انتات بيان فات، لازم كل المواد نتعلمها. اليوم في شيء اسمه المردود الاقتصادي للتعليم وكلفة التعليم. على ضوء كل هالأزمات الاقتصادية وعدم الاستقرار العالمي واللي متمركز بشكل كتير أساسي بالدول العربية وبالدول الإسلامية، هل فينا نفكر نحن ننتقل بوضع المناهج تعليمية يكون لها مردود حقوقي على المرأة، يعني هي الحفاظ على كرامتها وحقها الإنساني، إنه التعليم، وأنه هالتعليم هو عنصر وعامل في عملية التنمية المستدامة، إلى مردود اقتصادي أنه تحقق فيه الحكومة مقابل الصرف اللي عم تدفعه تطور اقتصادي معين. المناهج اللي تعلمناها ما بقى في صبر عليها، واليوم كمان كل الدول عم يعني مضطرة لتفوت الرقمنة والتكنولوجيا، وكل هذه هي مكلفة. هل يمكن أن نتصور مناهج لتعليم الفتيات وحتى الفتيان تخفف من هذه الكلفة وتجعل من النساء داخلي في سوق العمل؟ لأنه ببلد مثل لبنان نسبة الالتحاق المدرسي حتى الجامعي بتتعدى 80% مثل ما ذكرت ممثلة لبنان، لكن نسبة العمل المشاركة بالعمل هي لا تتعدى 29%. فإذا في فجوة كتير كبيرة. هالتعليم كيف فينا نعمله بطريقة أنه يكون له مردود اقتصادي إلى جانب التقدير الاجتماعي والحق الإنساني؟ شكراً.
Dr. Didam, you want me to say this in English? The last question?
Yes, I did. Thanks to the interpreters.
If I rightly summarize it, our esteemed guest was actually talking about the incentivization for girls in the education. She says that since the education has now become a costly business for anyone to undertake, and for girls it becomes more difficult. And that is why if there is a special curriculum per se, or maybe if there is a system of teaching and learning which is less costly but with a similar learning for others, and if that can be offered for girls together with some more opportunities created by the governments for girls in order to encourage them to join the stream of learning and to graduate, and yes, after graduation, they should be having maybe some sort of quotas for them in jobs so that they can be the bread earners as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, thank you very much. Thanks for all comments and questions. I'm going to cover up all in a very limited time. So start with the last one. The thing is that this digital learning thing, well, recently there's a new work regarding a new curriculum for the education, the gender sensitive curriculum, which is quite important for males and females between the gender stereotypes between the textbook things. In order to overcome this issue, there's some sort of gender-sensitive curriculum, and it is applied digitally. Well, this might be an answer to the cost of the education, but this digital learning thing, I find it a bit questionable. Why? Because in Turkey, and that was another question, this open education thing, well, it's an advantage, of course, because there is some sort of problems regarding the school's conditions, the safety issues, and this was repeatedly mentioned in the report. But distance learning or digital learning, digital education thing has the issue of, how to say, it does not take girls to secure from child marriage or child labor, because in this way, girls are supposed to attend the school digitally or in distance, well, over televisions, for example. We had this during pandemic era. But in the meantime, they were supposed to take responsibility of chores, of taking care of family members, of their marriages, for example. They were married off with higher ratios during the pandemic, even though the education was going on via digital and online or over some broadcasting facilities. So it is, yes, it facilitates the issue, it facilitates the access to education, of course. However, it does not take out the risks from the path. So I find it a bit questionable, the digital learning or long distance learning thing. Yes, it costs a lot because in Nigeria, yes, the northern part was was referred as with the lower rates of the education, not just girls, but both genders. But it is, yes, it is costable, and the governments that we pay taxes, etc., that it has to serve for education service. So yes, they have to take the burden of the education, and they have to provide safe schools, hygienic conditions, well, safe paths, routes, etc. And this is one of the most significant problems that we have here in Turkey. Even though the reports have come to me by national experts, I'm much more familiar with the situation in my own country. The discrepancy between different regions of the country are mostly related with this one, because there is no school, there is no sanitary conditions, there is no teachers. Even though we have the building, we don't have teachers in some sort of regions, in villages, in rural areas. This is one of the things, and this is the cost that the governments have to take the responsibility to provide it to its citizens. And yes, it's not just the girls, boys also should be educated. I totally agree with you, but the thing that the behavioral pattern is much more related with the waste, in quotation, the waste of educational sources for a girl is much more cultivated in our minds. So we see education of a girl as a waste, because afterwards they will not use this education, as you mentioned, that yes, they have this graduation, but jobs after graduation is much more limited for girls, for women, for young professionals. And yes, there are quotas. For example, let me check my notes, because in one of the countries, they just put, if I'm not mistaken, it's once again Bangladesh, they put working quotas in professional jobs in order to attract the attention for female candidates. And in the report of Malaysia, for example, the glass ceiling theory was mentioned. This is quite important. Why? Because it's not just the education disadvantages, it is also the disadvantages that women have in work areas, via professionals, via maternity leave. I mean, some part of the world are providing paternity leave while we do discuss about still maternity leaves. So yes, there's this discrepancy between regions, not in micro level, but in also macro level. So we have a lot to do, we have a lot to achieve, and it's not just our responsibility, but also the state, also the NGOs, also the scholars and the society itself should take part in it in order to overcome the issue. Well, I hope I could cover the entire questions I had in my notes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nidam. And I would now like to summarize the three important comparative reports on the status of the girls' education, and some common, you see some common areas. Those have been identified in these 15 Arab region countries and Muslim world. I would rather say as challenges that we can follow up as a common challenges. Can be described as the gender discrimination and cultural norms. We have poverty, then we have distance and accessibility. We have child marriage and early childbirth. We have lack of female teachers and school principals as role models, which is very important. And there is another which is very important, gender-based violence and harassment. And of course, lack of resources and infrastructure meant for the girls' education. And finally, I would also like to mention and relate that the financing in education is another very important subject that interrelates with all these challenges, and it actually translates into investing into the girls' education. For that matter, there is always a dire call for increasing the domestic finances, as well as to shorten the increasing international financing gap. And this will enable the countries to focus more on girls' education and also for the out-of-school children, which comprises of boys and girls both. With this, last but not least, I would like to reiterate and once again mention the two very important slogans which were mentioned in their speeches by Dr. Fadil Kivani and Ambassador Anar, respectively. The first one is just let her go to school, and the second one is educated boy is educated boy, and educated girl is educated family. Thank you very much.